So we have a landing page, and it looks pretty good, I have to say. One of the things that I do want to change, though, before we get to making our rooms is this carousel. It looks good, but when I go from image to image, it actually slides. And I don't want it to do that. I want it to fade. And if you look at the documentation on the Bootstrap page, so I've gone to Components, Carousel, and then over here, I clicked on Crossfade, right over here. It shows me that I can actually have things fade from slide to slide, which looks better to me. And all you have to do is copy this carousel slide, or carousel fade, and go back to your HTML and find your carousel wherever it is. It is right here. Carousel slide, and add that CSS class to it. So that would be carousel fade. At least that's what they say. So I save this, I go back to my website, I reload that page, and let's see if it works. Yes, now it fades from slide to slide. That just looks better to me. All right, so now we want to create some pages for our rooms. And we made two links for it. One was General's Quarters, and one was Major Suite. That's what I'm going to use in the final application. But because I need to navigate around right now to HTML files, let's make a few changes to our navigation. So here's my nav, and I'm going to format that a little bit better. Okay, so under Rooms, where it says Rooms General Quarters, we'll use that later, but right now we'll just put it generals.html, and for the majors, we'll put majors.html. And just because I want to be able to get around really easily, I'm also going to do HTML links for these things. And when we build our Golang templates, of course, this will be index.html, and this will be reservation.html. And I can't have the slashes in front of them, so I may as well fix that problem right now. We'll fix this. We'll change these in the Golang templates when we actually cut it up into templates. And we'll just have to change them in one place, which is kind of nice. And this will be contact.html. All right, this saves me the trouble of having to actually construct or run this HTML file through a real web server, which I don't want to do right now. So those links should work, but they don't have anywhere to go yet. So what I'm going to do is copy the entire page, create a new file, which I will call generals.html. Oops. I will paste in the content, and I will save it as generals.html. I'm going to save it in the same place as the index.html. So right in my working HTML folder beside index.html, I'm creating a new file called generals.html. And we'll make this a page. We'll make this our actual page. So first of all, we're not going to have a carousel here, so I'll get rid of that. Unless you want one, then you can leave one in, but I'm not going to have one. And I'll just do that for right now, just to save it. And I should be able to go back here, reload this page to get my refreshed links, and choose generals.html. And it takes me to that. Good, so I have the page. That's good. Let's just save this as a second file. Actually, I'll create a new one. I'll create a new file and call it save majors.html and paste it in there, save it, and I'll go put a title in here so I can tell the difference. And this will be right here in the title, Majors Suite, and on generals.html, we'll change this to generals quarters. I think that's what I called it. Save that, and this should all work. I should be able to go to Major Suite, and it is. Go to the generals quarters, and it's there, and back to the home page, and that works too. So I haven't done the book now or the contact page, but we'll get to those shortly. Let's get these rooms out of the way first. So what do we want to show on this this page? Well, first of all, let's show a picture. Now, in the course resources for this site, you will find a file called roomimages.zip. Download that, extract it, and put those, as I'm doing right now, into images. So you now have 5 images in here. The 2 we just added, Major Suite and Generals Quarters, they're both PNG files. And I don't think I actually told you this, but there's really only 3 kinds of images you ever want to use on a web page. GIF, or possibly GIF, depending on how you choose to pronounce it. JPEGs, which end with JPG. and pings, PNGs. And I'm going to use pings almost exclusively throughout the course. There are other more modern types, but they're not accepted widely enough on browsers that I can actually use them on websites, so I don't. So those are the three you want to stick with: pings, JPEGs, and GIFs. So I've put an image there, General's Quarters, and the page I'm working on right now is General's Quarters. So let's put a picture there. So the way that we do that is pretty straightforward. I want to put this picture where? I'll put it on its own row, div class equals row, and it has a closing div. And I will just put the picture there, and we'll move it around and play with it in a bit and see how it looks like. And as you know, an image is put into a web page like this. Image source equals, and because I'm actually not on a web server, I can't start with a slash right now, static images, and the name of the file is generals-quarters.ping. generals-quarters.ping. And you're supposed to give images a width and a height as well. But I'm just going to give them a class. Class equals, and this is a Bootstrap thing, image fluid. And that makes the image responsive. And we'll see what that looks like in a minute. So that row should have been inside a column. And I'm sure you noticed that. Div class equals call, or the image should have been inside a column inside the row, slash div. All right, so let's format this just to keep our divs nicely lined up so we can see where things open and close. Div class equals row, div class equals call, my image, which should have an alt tag, alt equals room image, and 2 closing divs, and it should be good. So let's go back and reload that page and see what it looks like. And it doesn't work. Why not? Static, images, generals, save. That's better. Okay, too big. That doesn't matter. I'm going to go with that for right now. But it looks pretty ugly. I mean, it's just stuck there. It's way too big. So what I'm going to do, rather than shrinking this image, which I could do in Photoshop or whatever image editing software you happen to have, maybe I will change the width of the column. And we haven't done that yet. So far all we've seen is div class equals call. Here's the thing to bear in mind. This entire container, and this image takes up the entire width of the container, and the container is this tag right here, div class equals container. Bootstrap breaks that up into 12 columns, or 12 possible columns. So I can have as many as 12 columns in that particular row. And I can do that, I can specify how wide a column is using this syntax. Call, and I'm going to go with LG for large, and I'll call it 3. That means on large monitors that are very, very wide, this will take a maximum of 3 columns. And I can also specify other sizes as well. I can go call MD3 for medium-sized monitors, call SM for small monitors, and for small monitors, I want this to be 12 wide. Okay, just because I can. And if I go call XS, I want that to be 12 wide as well. In other words, to take up the full width of the container. Now I've just added all those classes, and I save it. And if I reload this, look how much smaller it is. Now it's very small. Well, that's too small. Let's try 5 or 4. Let's see how that looks. Save that. A little better. Okay. Let's try 6. Make it half the width of the container. And I'm doing it for both large and medium because I want to treat those the same. Reload. Okay, that's not bad. Great. But it would be nice to have a little bit of space above it, and it would be nice to have this kind of centered on the page. Well, let's see what Bootstrap gives us for images. So under the documentation for Bootstraps, I'm going to go to Components, and I'm going to find images. Are they in there? No? Maybe they're under Content. Let's try Content. Images. Look at that. So responsive images, I did this already just by giving it the image fluid syntax, and that makes an image grow or small based upon grow or shrink based upon the size of the window it's shown in. And we can also put little borders around it. Class image equals thumbnail. Well, let's try that, see what that looks like. So copy this and find my image and add the class space image thumbnail. Let's save that. Go back here, reload this page. Okay, that's not bad. It does give me a little bit of space at the top, and that's really all I want. And it puts a nice little border around it. All right, let's try centering this now. Well, we already know how to do that. Div class, in the class on the div around this image, can I put text center? Let's see what that does. Maybe that'll center an image too. No, didn't work. Well, that kind of makes sense since, text center is actually text center. Let's go back to the documentation. So back here, and let's find our images again. I don't know how I got off there, but anyway, I did. So that's under content, images, and let's just scroll down. Look over here, aligning images. Align images with the helper float classes or text alignment classes. Okay, and here's an example of center. So it says all I really need to do is to copy these two things, and paste them in my image. Let's try that. Save. Go back over here, reload my page. No, it's still not centered. Maybe it's because we have the thumbnail on there. Let's get rid of the thumbnail and see what happens. Still not centering it. Well, why is it not centering it? Well, of course it is centering it. It's centering it because we've actually made this column, col large 6, to be the leftmost column. When we're looking at this from a large monitor, it's actually not centering it, or it is centering it, but it's centering it in a column that only takes up half the space. So if I change this back to 12 and change this back to 12, or just leave it as col, for example, how can I make this? I just want this to be one column now. If I save this, what's going to happen? The image will get huge again. Well, how can I make that smaller? Well, I can actually do it by defining another style sheet class, and I'll call it half width or room image because it's specific to these room images. And I can just say max width, and then I need to put something in there. 50% might work. So don't make it any more than 50% of the width of the available space. So down here, we just need to add in this image the class room image, which should make it 50% maximum width. And it does. All right. Now, when I took away my thumbnail, I lost my little space at the top. So let me put image thumbnail back in there. And there it is. Okay, now we have a room image. And we can put our description of the room here. Make reservation now. Well, let's think about what that button's going to do. On the home screen, when I'm back here, when I click on Make Reservation Now, what I want to do is search for the availability of everything in my property. I have 2 rooms. Check for the availability of all of the available rooms. But on the actual room itself, General's Quarters, I want to check just for this room. I don't care if the other room is available when I'm searching for that room specifically. So maybe I should change the text on that button and have it point to something else. So what I'll do is go back to my editor, and I will find that, and I will say check availability. And instead of make reservation, I'll put make reservation GQ. Okay? So we're going to save that. And we go back here and reload this, and I didn't save it, did I? I must not have saved it. Check availability. I did that on Generals, save, go back, reload. Reload. There we are. Okay. So I've got one room done. Now, let's just, for the sake of getting this out of the way, select all, copy, and paste the General's Quarters over top of the Majors, and then just go change these things. Majors Suite. And down here, instead of GQ, we'll put MS for Majors Suite. And this is just a placeholder. We'll make that URL whatever it needs to be later on. So now if I save this, I got to change the image too. Instead of having General's Quarters, I believe I called it Majors Suite. Save. And reload. That's fine. Go to Majors Suite. And there it is. I guess I didn't call it Majors Suite. What did I call it? Majors. I misspelled Majors. Oh well, I'm going to leave it like that because I've uploaded it to the course website. Let's just paste that in there. Nobody sees that except for us anyway. Now when I come back to my web browser and reload that, I now have the Majors Suite. So I've created 2 pages, one for a room, one for another room, and I have my home page, and I don't have my Book Now done yet. That doesn't exist, so we'll have to build that one. We can do our contact though, just really quickly, just by putting placeholder text in there. Select all, copy, make a new file, paste, save it as contact.html. Make sure it's in the right place. It is. And I'll just delete this stuff in the center and say here, that can be gone. This can be gone. And H1, this will be the contact page. Close H1 and get rid of this row. And that's just a placeholder, just to get us in there. Okay, so we save that. We go back to our web browser. We reload the page and we should have a contact page. And we do. Nothing special in there, but that works. This works. About's not there, so let's just do that. Select all, copy, new file, paste, save, about.html. We're building a wireframe for our site, and we may as well do one now for Book Now as well. So new file, paste, save, and we'll call it book.html. I think that's what we'll call it that anyway. Save. Okay. And now let's look at our navigation and see what I should have called that. Nav, General Quarters, Book Now, reservation.html. So I'll just rename that by coming over to here, hiding that, and finding my working HTML, and renaming book to, close that, book to reservation. Okay, so let's go back and label those so we know they're actually correct. This will be the reservation page, save. About, this will be the about page, save. Contact is the contact page. So we should have all of the necessary pages right now. So we have our home page, we have an about page, we have our general's quarters, we have our major suite, we have Book Now, and we have contact. All right, at this point, I am now ready to convert these HTML files into Golang templates. And we can do that in the not too distant future. So that's enough for this time around. We'll pick it up in the next lecture.